things that I've seen, and I wanted to speak on this guy. I think his name was Jack Whitaker, and Jack Whitaker won the lottery. He won a $340 million in the Powerball, and he actually so one thing that he did was he actually chose to do that whole, they give that option where you can get all the money at once or you can get it in payments over time. And it's kind of funny because they always ask you that before you buy the ticket. In some states, they'll ask you, like, if you win, do you want to get your money now or do you want to get it broken into pieces? And you can see people kind of fantasize and be like, oh gosh, I don't know. I don't know. And they're always smiling, they're looking in the air. And I said, oh man, they are just playing with people's heads because what they're doing is they're creating this sort of anticipatory dopamine injection that's going to make you want to buy the ticket because when they ask you a question like that, about fake money, money that doesn't actually exist, it feels real. The brain, my wife, as a therapist, she's an expert in the subconscious mind and all that. And what she's has always told me is that the mind doesn't know the difference between real and make believe. Like the mind, if you fantasize about something, there's a part of your mind that really feels like it's real. That's why, for example, if somebody had a traumatic experience as a kid, and you say, imagine that experience. Tell us what happened when this terrible thing happened to you. They'll start to feel emotions. Their brain scan will show that they're going through the same feelings that they had when they had the experience. And then also when you imagine an experience, it's kind of similar. It's like a contrived artificial memory or something. So anyway, so the lottery is kind of fascinating in terms of how they really unfortunately some would say that they kind of exploit the poor a little bit by basically making them think that their lives are going to change because they're going to win this thing that 99.99999999999999999% of them will never win, right? Like most of us in here ain't gonna win no Powerball. We know that, right? So anyway, let me see what cities you're from. I see Maurice Alexander from Washington, Fort Washington, Maryland. Shanice Willa, I see you in here. Let's see what other cities. I'd like to see what cities you're in. Richmond, Virginia. I see Richmond. Let's see who else is in here. I see. Oh, Odessa is out of Queens. What's up, Queens? Vincent's in the Philippines. Good for you. That's interesting. That's a great place. Alexander, Portland, Oregon. I see Metro Detroit, Chicago for Armantia, Curtis, Tanisha out of Houston, H-Town, love H-Town. Willie D, my buddy from the Ghetto Boys. He was in my wedding. Willie's one of my best friends. He lives right there in Houston, and it's always great to travel through Houston with Willie D because you gives everybody's just treats you good and you can go to restaurants for free and stuff. He's kind of like I see him as like the unofficial mayor of Houston, but I'm sure there's like a real mayor or something, but I don't know who that person is. But anyway, so let me get back to it. All right, so let's see. Cassandra, Cincinnati, good to see you. Cassandra, Mary Floyd out of Tallahassee. Let's see, Darnay out of Atlanta. Charlene, good morning to you as well. And out of Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia. I just talked to my friend from Philly yesterday. All right, so anyway, let me get back to it. Okay, so I was mentioning to you guys the lottery winner. Again, I think his name was Jack Whitaker. I could get it wrong, but it doesn't matter because he had a real hard time. So let me tell you the story, and then what I want to do is I want to link this to a couple of financial theories that you should be aware of as you make economic decisions going forward. In fact, my one of my big dissertation topics was financial psychology, behavioral finance. I've always been intrigued with psychology, and I because I just really think that mindset makes a big difference in your life. And the reason I became intrigued with mindset and psychology is because I had an issue with depression as a kid. And I was very depressed coming out of high school. It was really hard. There wasn't much to be happy about. And it wasn't until 25 years later or 30 years later that I realized part of the reason I was depressed is because my parents were depressed. I didn't know this. I just figured out. I said, oh, that's why I suddenly became happy and the sun came out when I moved out of the house because my parents were both dealing with their own type of depression. My father was a police officer for 25 years and a Vietnam veteran who probably has some PTSD and things like that. He'd actually overcome a heroin addiction from when he was much younger. He was a very disciplined man, but troubled. When you're a cop, it's a very disturbing job. That's why I refuse to criticize all cops because I don't believe all cops are these terrible people that wake up wanting to hurt black people every day. I do know that there are bad cops. We know this. That's a fact. But in the system needs some adjustment for sure, especially once individuals go to prison. I think the treatment of prison inmates is absolutely horrible. It's bad for society. It's a money grab. They make billions of dollars from incarcerating your kids, like that guy that was just pardoned who was taking money to put kids, probably mostly black kids, into certain facilities, right? So the criminal justice system is a problem. But I just saw my father put his life on the line for perfect strangers. He almost got killed defending somebody he did not know. So I just can't think that all cops are bad. I just don't. I'm not built that way. But anyway, that like so dealing with all that affected him. In fact, he was the head of many, many different divisions. He was a very high-ranking official. He was getting a promotion like every 6 months. And I just thought that was normal. I thought all the cops were getting promotions like that. But then I meet one of his friends from 20 years ago, and he'd still be a sergeant or whatever, And my dad's had like 8 different jobs since then. And so he was like the head of the SWAT team. He ran the Crimes Against Children unit, which is horrible, by the way. When cops do crimes against children, they have to get therapy because the stuff that people do to kids in this country, some people, not everybody, a small percentage, it's just terrible. I mean, it's just horrible to see. And so they have to get therapy after this. And so this is one of the reasons why I think family is so important because when families are stable and strong and you've got the mother and the father both raising the child together, they're better protected. I just believe that. And again, it's not to dismiss anyone who's doing the best they can with what they've got, but I really think that training on family would be one of those $1 trillion moves the black community can make. Like if I suddenly had $100 million and I opened a school system across the country, I would absolutely positively have some training in there on family and relationships. Why is that? Well, because every study shows that stable families are better at building wealth. Every study shows that when the child has the mother and the father in the house, they're safer, they're happier, especially if the mother and father have worked on their relationship and they know how to get along with each other. And every cop I talked to who worked in crimes against children would tell me that a lot of crimes against kids were happening when their mother was at work or when nobody was there to supervise, or maybe their mom's boyfriend, comes out of jail and does some terrible thing, just whatever, it's just kind of sad to me. So anyway, let me get back to my point so I don't get too far off because I am going to come back to Jack Whitaker, but y'all know how I am. Y'all know what I do, right? I want anything that comes to mind when it comes to wealth. I want you to understand it. And this conversational learning style, I got that from my dad because that's how he used to teach me. He would just tell me stories about, well, you see that dude over there? Well, let me tell you what happened to him. And so I learned. That's how we learn. So anyway, with that being said, my father, the mental health challenges that came with all the different experiences that he had, I think affected him. And then my mother, when I got older, my mother told me that she was depressed. She talked about how she felt growing up and the trauma and the neglect and things that she went through, and that affected her perspective, her worldview. And so everything was like sad. Everything was like you come home, he'd say, "Oh, guess what? I'm gonna do that." And then it's like, well, that's gonna cost a lot of money. That probably ain't gonna work. Like that was kind of the stuff I would get, and I didn't realize how that affected me. So I think that intentionality is extremely important, especially when you talk about economic topics. People that are very optimistic tend to have a better relationship with risk than people that are pessimistic. Pessimistic people will always see the downside of everything, right? People that are deliberately pessimistic or don't understand how pessimistic they can be, they think they're being realistic when really when you think about risk. And I told you in my research, I spent a lot of time assessing risk and studying risk on a mathematical level. That's what we had to do when I was at Ohio State. And the thing is that risk has upside and downside. And so if you're a person who tends to always see the downside in everything, then you don't have an accurate perspective of risk. You have what we call an extremely concave utility function. The simple way to say that would mean that you basically are scared of damn near everything. So risk does not make sense to you. Taking chances doesn't matter to you. And this is really important for us to understand as black people. And I assume all of y'all are black. How many of y'all, is there anybody who's not black up in here? All the not black people, say something in the chat. Say yes. Say yes in the chat. We love you, by the way. We don't hate white people. I just love black people. They think if I some people naturally think that if you love black people, then that means you got to hate white people. Man, this ain't got nothing to do with y'all. You are not that important in my world. So I'm thinking I'm gonna waste my energy trying to hate on somebody. No, I want love. Love is what I lead with. Period. I lead with love. Okay, I see some yeses. All right, Ken and Lauren and Kimberly. All right, so we got some white folks. So that's all right, and that's cool, Susan. Susan, we love you, by the way. Everybody say hi to Susan. She's black. Oh, black British. Okay, so you're not. You're well, black British is black. Come on now. But anyway, so anybody who's not black, it's cool. You're welcome to be here. But because everybody can learn. I taught lots of people that are not black through the years, but people are just scared of me because I'm pro-black. When you become pro-black, people are like, "Oh my God, you must be dangerous." Or I'm not dangerous. I'm a dad. So anyway, with that said, your perception of risk is distorted to some extent because black people have been through a lot of stuff, right? We went through this massive thing called slavery that no most other people haven't gone through. We went through things like the Middle Passage and the slave dungeons and Jim Crow and all kinds of stuff, where people were killed and incarcerated for the smallest things. So fear kind of became a way of life. That became something that was essential for survival. Well, the problem is that fear and wealth don't really mix. You know this because you've probably heard people say scared money don't make money. So if you're scared all the time and you're scared of your own shadow and you lead with fear and you make every decision out of fear, then chances are prosperity will evade you. But safety, you might have security and safety for sure, but you might OD on security. Like again, like if for example, if I'm afraid of dying in a car crash, and I just say I'm gonna stay in my house for the rest of my life so that I don't die in a car crash, well, congratulations, you'll never die in a car crash because you didn't leave the house. But look at how much life you're going to miss because you were sitting in the house, scared to go outside at all for any reason. So a lot of this, when you link that to trauma, intergenerational trauma, post-traumatic slave disorder, things like that, as well as just the environment that you're in, that can really affect your ability and desire to take risks. So because I dealt with the depression I felt as a kid, I mean, I was really depressed. It was really it was a very sad time for me. I'm not gonna lie about that. But just don't feel so bad for me because everything got better once I started to have equity in my own life, right? I was able to get up in the morning and decide what kind of man I was going to be. I could decide how I was going to view the world. I could decide how I was going to look at things. And once I understood that science, once I gained that consciousness to become self-aware, once I kind of elevated my thinking to be able to see myself from the outside and say, okay, Boyce, it's your decision. What kind of man you going to be right now? That was the best thing in the world to experience. I no longer felt like anybody's victim. I didn't feel like anybody controlled my stuff but me. I understood, like, wait a minute, if I decide that I'm gonna do my best, if I decide that I'm gonna be optimistic, if I decide that I'm gonna go hard and believe in myself and choose to be confident, just choose to be. That's it. The people don't know confidence really is a choice. Confidence does not mean you're perfect. Ain't nobody perfect. Confidence does not mean that you won't mess up. Everybody messes up. Confidence does not mean that you ain't got no flaws. Everybody got them. I promise you that's the case. Confidence is kind of a decision it's really a love decision. It's loving yourself enough to accept yourself, not just when you're perfect, but to accept yourself when you are highly imperfect. That it really comes back to love, and I encourage you to think about that. I encourage you to think about this. Confidence that is sort of this type of unconditional love where you say, "I'm all I got, and I'm gonna ride or die with me till the wheels fall off. I'm going down with the ship." So I'm not scared of the bad outcomes because I'm gonna be there whether it's good or bad, sunny or rainy. It doesn't matter. And I'm telling you, when you learn how to have that type of unconditional love for yourself, it gives you a type of courage where you're like, look, I ain't scared to stand by Boyce because me and Boyce been hanging out since since grade school. Okay, maybe me and Boyce met each other when I was 19 or 20 years old, actually, because before that, I don't think I knew who I was. But once I started to think about that and realize that that's kind of a choice, well, I said, oh no, if I got option A, option B, and option C, whichever option is aligned with winning, I want that option. That's the one I'm consciously choosing. Right. So think I want you to go back and think about this in terms of investing. And we're going to get to a lottery winner in a minute. That this is something that's just flowing through me right now. I got to share this. I really encourage you to understand that linkage between self-love and self-confidence, and then the linkage between self-confidence and taking risks. A person who is confident will take risks. Not because they know it's going to be fine. That's if you know it's going to work out, then that's not a risk. That's not a risk. That's easy. Anybody can shoot a layup, but can you shoot the 3-point shot? Can you do that? Right? And if you shoot a 3-point shot, even if you're the best shooter in the world, you're only going to hit maybe 50, 60% of the shots at best. But you also know that there's such a thing as calculated risk, meaning that if I'm a shooter, I take a good shot. I don't take a bad one. I practice. I don't just go out there sloppy. So I maximize my probability of hitting the shot. But Steph Curry never steps up to the 3-point line knowing that that shot's going to go in. He just knows that he's confident. So self-love and self-confidence are connected, and self-confidence and risk-taking are connected. Confident people take chances and they just are willing to roll with whatever happens. People that love themselves tend to be more confident because they're not spending all their time thinking about all the things that can go wrong or everything that's wrong with them or why they're not qualified for the job. And I guarantee you that that a decent percentage of the people in this room right now, there's a few hundred of you here watching now, almost 1,000, I guess. That's about how many we have every day for class. I bet you that most people in this room at some point have scenarios where you become your biggest hater, where you become your biggest critic, where everybody you see flaws in yourself that nobody else sees because you know yourself so well. You know all the little dark secrets that nobody's ever going to find out. You know all the areas where you messed up. You are hamstrung and locked in by your inner child who was clumsy and sloppy and had trauma. You know these things. You know the nooks and crannies of your existence, and those nooks and crannies can haunt you. They can haunt the hell out of you because that inner child never goes away. Little Boyce, my nickname was Coco. Little Coco is always around. And little Coco, he's a little bit damaged, and it doesn't change. If I think about him too much, I might bust out in tears when I start thinking about how he feels. But then there's also the other part of me that made a decision to say I'm going to love and nurture that little child. I'm going to love him and tell him it's okay. It's all right for you to go out here and make a damn fool of yourself if something goes wrong. It's okay for you to try. It's okay for you to go out and fail. That's where the self-love, the unconditional love, because I'm gonna love him no matter what. If he fails, I'm still gonna say it's all right, man. You got this. Look at all the great things you've done. Go back out there. Come on, we're gonna go back out there and fight. You understand? So that self-love and that self-confidence leads to a better risk assessment, which will affect you economically because you'll gain the ability to take chances. You will make the decision to be confident. I believe that confidence really is a choice. It feels weird. It's like I'm going to choose to be confident, even though I'm not sure why. But I love myself and I'm all I got, and I'm going to maximize my probability of success. You have no idea how many times I've had to have that conversation with myself before maybe would go on a CNN or something or give some big speech or go into some meeting or go have to try to do something where I'm not sure if I can do it, but I'm thinking, oh God, I'm the leader. I guess I got to figure something out here. And then you always surprise yourself every time, right? Especially, like I kind of think I believe in being of substance and not flash. I see a lot of flashy people that, deceive with their flashiness. I'm not trying to be flashy. I always believe in having substance. And so sometimes if you don't see the substance that's there, it can cause you to hesitate a little bit, where someone else will go and take something that you could have gotten if you'd simply been more confident. So don't let that happen to you. That those are some of my biggest regrets in life, and I encourage you to love yourself enough to take the chances you need to take so you can have the life that you want. And I don't know what that looks like for you, but I encourage you to do that. All right. Now, before we move on, I want to mention really quickly. Later on, I'm going to send out some stuff on some stocks and crypto that I just saw. There's really some interesting things happening in terms of investing, and I know that quantum investing's kind of been taken off lately. A lot of those quantum computing stocks that we talked about last week are doing really well right now. And I'll probably send that out to you again in case you didn't get that. And also there's I had that list of real estate investment trusts as well. And so all that if you are on the text list, you'll eventually get a chance to receive all that stuff. So make sure you get on the text list for this class. The way you can do that is on your phone, text the word morning, MORNING, to the phone number 87948. So text morning to 87948. And we got some other stuff coming up for you in the Black Business School. In fact, Thursday, we are doing a meeting of our crypto club. And so we're going to bring in an expert that's going to talk about what's going on with crypto, where the opportunities are, things like that. So if you'd like to participate in that, I'll send you guys a text and invite you in if you'd like to try it out. Okay, so here is the story about Jack Whitaker. Jack Whitaker was this guy who won the lottery, and he won 100, well, he won 340 million, but I guess they give you the option of getting it all at once. So he chose to get his money in a lump sum, and he got 113 million dollars. Now, the interesting thing about Jack was that Jack seemed like a really cool guy. He would give massive amounts of money away. First thing he did with 113 million was he gave 14 million dollars to a local charity. I love the generosity of that, but I would be deeply concerned that you would give away 10% of the money just right off the bat. I think that was a little bit much. But anyway, in addition to that, what Jack would do is he would just give like 10, 20, 30, $40,000 to people just for whatever reason. Like if you met a waiter that he liked their personality, he would give them $50,000 or whatever, which I love that because he was really changing people's lives. But as you can imagine, that's not really sustainable. And so, anyway, as you probably know, what's going, how the story's going to end. It ended very badly for Jack. In fact, there was a time where they asked him about winning the lottery, and he actually said, if I could go back in time, I would tear that lottery ticket up." And I think the thing that probably affected him the most was what happened with his granddaughter. So his granddaughter, he just gave her a bunch of money, and that's the danger when a young person gets a lot of money and they don't have a purpose, they don't have anything to do, they don't have to go to work, they don't have anything, they don't have any reason to just be motivated to do anything. Well, this poor girl, she got hooked on drugs and she died from a drug overdose at the age of 17, very young. And so that probably was a big catalyst in terms of him regretting what happened, but also other things happened. He became once people kind of got to know that he had this money because he was kind of loud about it. And I've talked about this a lot. I say this a lot to my rapper friends. I say, why are y'all so damn loud about money? Like when you're loud with money, in fact, there's a billionaire, Michael Roberts, who he's going to teach a class in the Black Business School at some point. I got to call him. But he came in and one thing he spoke about was he said, rich people are loud, but wealthy people whisper. He said wealthy people whisper because they don't want you to know how much money they have. They don't need to prove to you that they're the boss. They know they're the boss. They don't need to prove to you that they're rich. They know that they're rich. Their goal is to stay rich. So part of staying rich is, look, I don't even want to be a target. I don't want to be a target of the feds. I don't want to be a target of criminals. I don't want to be a target of scammers. I don't want to be a target of beggars. I don't want to be a target of anybody. So no, I don't need you to know how much money I have. And to some extent that is a mental health sort of issue, right? If you are a person that has some sort of emotional deficiency where maybe you've never gotten enough attention and you haven't overcome that, then perhaps attention seeking behavior might be something you would engage in, which could be detrimental to you and the protection of the things that you value. So basically, Jack was a guy that liked the attention. In fact, he carried around a briefcase with $545,000 in the briefcase just so he could give money away to people when he saw them. Well, the criminals also heard that he had $545,000 in a briefcase everywhere he went. So, of course, he got robbed. I mean, if you're looking to rob somebody, why not rob the guy that you know has $545,000 in his briefcase? And he got robbed at a strip club because I'm sure the strippers were happy to see him come through the door. There's Jack. Jack is so much fun, right? The ballers are here, girl. The ballers are here, right? You know what they do, right? So because there's a science to that. I told you about that story where I taught when I used to write for AOL Black Voices, and I got that email from that lady that worked for. She was a little hood. She kind of spoke a lot of Ebonics, but I got it all, because I'm black too. And she was a nice lady, but I wasn't really sure. I just listened to this crazy story because I had to call her back. because she saw, because what happened was I had written a story about Lawrence Taylor, the NFL player, and he got into this situation with an underage girl, and she happened to be a prostitute, and the Gloria Allred was suing him and everything. And I wrote about it, and she emailed me, and it was all caps. You know how people write in all caps? It's like they're screaming at you. You know, she's like, I know these girls, and I know what's really going down. Hey, that's just some BS. Blah, blah, blah. So I had to call her. She put her phone number. I called her. It was, I don't know if it was a bad idea or good idea, but I really was intrigued. I sat on the phone with this lady for about 2.5 hours, and I did not even say hardly a word. I didn't say hardly anything. I just listened to her talk because the story was so fascinating. It blew my mind. And so, what she said, according to her story, is she said, oh, I know that girl. She said they have this little gang. It was like three of them. They were very young, like 15, 17, and 19. And the oldest one was a very pretty girl, and she was a girlfriend of a gang leader who was in jail. And I said, well, how do you, and she's telling me all this deep inside information. And I'm like, well, how do you know all this? Are you a criminal too? Like, what are you? And what she said was, she said, I'm a butt doctor. I work for a butt doctor. I said, what? What did you say? She said, I work for a butt doctor. I said, what? She said she worked for this doctor in Brazil that would come and give butt injections to the strippers. That's what so I'm talking to this lady who works for the butt doctor, and we're on the phone, and she's just giving me this crazy, fascinating story. So of course I was like, tell me more. This is really interesting. So she's telling me that these three girls had this little gang, and she said the oldest girl was her boyfriend was a big drug dealer who was in jail, and she said they're in love, so they kind of see it's each other like a Bonnie and Clyde type thing. And she said the reason she knew the girl was because the girl looks really sweet and innocent, and she thought she was just a troubled youth that kind of needed a role model. She said, so I moved her in my house. And next thing you know, this girl was trying to sleep with my husband, right? So she wasn't no little girl. She was trying to be a grown ass woman. And she said, of course, I had to get her out of there. But during that time, she said that she sort of got an eye into their life. And so what would happen is that the boyfriend in prison would tell his girlfriend, hey, this guy I want to kill, he goes to this barber shop, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to show up, I want you to look sexy, and I want you to get him to think that he's gonna get some, you know what, get him back to the hotel room, and I'll get some people in there that will come in and take him out. And that was how they would kill people. And it made me think about just some of the things you have to do in order to protect yourself in terms of dealing with the fact that there are people that will exploit a vulnerability that you have. And there have been many, many men that have lost their lives because because for a lot of men, their intelligence level drops when it comes to sexuality. If you're not sexually responsible and sexually careful, then someone can lure you into a situation that could be very harmful for you. And this was not only how they got revenge, it was also how they got money. So one of the things that they would do to get money, so this is what makes it a money conversation. I want to make sure you don't think I'm just talking about strippers and butt doctors for nothing. All right. So anyway, so what they would do is they would study the different rappers and athletes, and they knew which ones like to, just love the ladies, like to just mix it up with any pretty girl that came along. So they would figure out, what they like to talk about, and where they were going to be, and they would show up and looking all good and everything with fake IDs and stuff in case you asked them if they were of age or whatever. And the 19-year-old didn't need one, but the other two did. And they would get the man back to the hotel room, and then they would give him a date rape drug. They would give him like the Diddy drug, right? So men are not the only ones who've used these things. It's been women too. Cardi B talks about this actually. She's very honest. She's really interesting to listen to. And so when the man goes to sleep, they would then put the 15-year-old girl in the bed with the man and take pictures of him sleeping with this 15-year-old. And then they would blackmail the man with the pictures. And she told me that their dream was they wanted to save up $20,000 so they could go to, or 30 or something, so they can move to California and become adult film stars. That was their dream. This is very sad, right? This is the dream for it's sad, right? But it's true. It's a true story. So anyway, so the athlete would wake up, and he would be like, what the hell's going on? And they would show him the pictures, and they would say, we got these pictures of you in the bed with this underage girl. And so if you don't give us $10,000, we will send these pictures to your wife. We'll send them to your team. We'll also send them to the media. And that was the hustle, right? And so what was also interesting was that one of the little girls I think the oldest one, she was sleeping with probably about 10 men a day or something and wasn't protecting herself or anything. So she went to the, she went to, this isn't funny, this is tragic, but it's, might as well. I mean, I don't know, you can laugh. I'm not going to judge you. So she goes to get a test, like an HIV test, and they ask, like, well, how many partners have you had in the last month? And she's like, I don't know, about like 150 or something. And so they literally told her, they said, y'all need to stay in the house and do not leave the house for until we get your test results because we're calling the Centers for Disease Control. And that's how crazy it was. And of course, they didn't listen because kids don't listen. But anyway, this was interesting to me, mainly as a financial story, because what it spoke to is how some of the things that we think are cultural norms, like wealthy men being very promiscuous, is not necessarily the most logical way for you to live your life. Because if you have money and you are engaged in the intimate act of sleeping with a person or whatever, letting your hair down a little bit. I can't let my hair down. I don't have no hair, but you get the point. Um, then you're making yourself vulnerable. That's the point. You're making yourself vulnerable. And I think as men, we feel like we're invincible. We feel like, I'm the dominant one here. If anybody's gonna get victimized, it would be you, but it ain't gonna be me because I'm a man. And that's not how the world works. Lots of people get victimized, male and female. And in this case of Jack Whitaker, he's going to the strip club with $545,000 in his briefcase. That makes him the talk of the town. He's getting all this attention. And the thing about attention is that all attention is not good attention. Like, so for example, even in my life, what I do publicly, it does get attention. I go to cities all around the world, even cities I've never been to. People recognize me on the street. That's a gift and a curse. It's a gift when I meet somebody that is friendly and loving and supportive. And hey, I love what you do, and we bought our first house because of you, and we started our bit. I love that, right? But then there's the other side of me that says, well, I also need to have a security guard around because everybody doesn't love what you do, and you don't know what's brewing out there, right? So money draws attention. And if you notice, I've never gone out and bragged about how much money I make. I don't do that because you get that attention and you don't know what the intention is behind the attention. So with Jack Whitaker, he's newly rich. He's walking around going to the strip club with $545,000 in a briefcase. Of course he's going to get robbed. Of course the strippers are going to try to scam him. Of course these things are going to happen. So all these things occurred and it ruined his life. It made him say, I wish I had never won the lottery because now my life is worse because of the money than it was before I even had the money. And so don't ever think that money always makes your life better. Money is powerful, right? Money has the ability to accelerate the direction of whatever you're already doing. So if you're already doing stupid stuff, then money gives you the ability to do more stupid stuff. If you're already going to crash the car, money just speeds the car up. So instead of crashing the car at 40 miles an hour, you're now going to crash the car at 180 miles an hour, which is going to increase the likelihood that your car is going to explode and that you're going to die. So to some extent, having less money and less power, it means for some of us, when we don't have consciousness, it means that you have less ability to destroy yourself. Right. So sometimes not having the money, this is why when you protect your wealth in the next generation, you got some kids in your family that don't need to have a whole bunch of money because you're gonna ruin them. Like he gave all that money to his granddaughter died at 17. Had she not had all that money, I'm willing to bet you that she probably wouldn't have died at 17. So it's sad. I mean, again, my heart goes out to them. I'm not saying I told you so at all. That's not the goal here. The goal is to say, to talk about what money does. His granddaughter's name was Brandy, by the way. What else? Also, he didn't really have much of a financial plan. So what he would do is he would make another crucial mistake when it comes to money, which is investing in a lot of bad business ventures, right? So somebody comes along and they say, I need $50,000 because I want to open a liquor store, and they have no experience running a business at all, but it just seems like a good idea. You give them the 50,000, the money just disappears like that. Be careful with those businesses that your friends bring to you because it's easier to get your money in than it is to get your money out. We've talked about this. That's called liquidity. Liquidity is the ability to take your equity and convert it into cash. What I have found is that when you put your money into something, typically it's very hard to get it out. That's why I like the stock market because I can put my money in and I can pull my money out, and it only takes a matter of seconds. Now, a couple of things you want to consider here is there are various financial theories that this relate to. I'm not going to cover them all because I don't want to make your head spin. Oh, let's see, who's it? Tammy says, "What's a butt doctor?" Oh, a butt doctor gives you the injections if you want to get the silicone. You know, the strippers got they got the unnaturally big, you know, things. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not trying. It's Saturday morning. I ain't trying to gross you out, but you know what I'm talking about, right? You got something to shake back there, and so they get the injections, and that makes me sad. Just as a side note, I mean the health effects, Lord Jesus, and I don't know. I just wonder how that's going to feel and what that's going to look like when you're 65 or 70 years old. But I'm not judging. God bless you. Whatever you choose to do, I support that. All right. So anyway, there is something that people talk about called the lottery curse, or a type of or the impact of what they might also refer to as sudden wealth syndrome. And basically, this says that people they have sudden wealth and they get this massive dopamine injection. Remember, money affects the same region of your brain as cocaine, so it feels like a drug. You're going through this high. You feel like it's going to last forever, and it doesn't. It never lasts forever. When I was in grad school, I was broke. I was flat broke. I didn't make that much money. I made about minimum wage. My first job at Syracuse, I made $115,000 a year. I could have got more if I knew how to negotiate. I was mad because I literally got exactly what I asked for, and you should never get exactly what if you ask for, like, they offered me 100, and I said I that's not enough. That's not enough for me to leave my program early and all that because I was hot stuff. I was the only black person on the planet to get a PhD in finance that year, so I was the only one. If you wanted an African American, I was the only one, male or female. But I underestimated my value, right? So this guy, his name was Howard, and he came and he offered me 100, and I said, I don't know if that's enough for me to leave early because I was going to the league, like the NBA athletes leave and stuff, and I was like, I think I need more. And he said, well, how much? I said, I don't know, at least 115. And so the next day he calls and he says, guess what? I got you 115. And I said, damn. Like, I should have said like 150 because you got to make it hard. There's something in negotiation. Sanford Grossman, who's a professor at Wharton, talks about something like how to negotiate. You're supposed to negotiate, not where you don't want to negotiate a deal where the other side is super happy that you took the deal. That means you left money on the table. You negotiate to what they call the point of indifference, the point where you've literally pulled out every nickel to the point where they're kind of like, okay, I don't care if you come or not. If you ask for another dollar, I'm gonna say no, right? Then you say, okay, I'll take that, right? So I probably should have asked for like 160 or something because I literally could have gotten probably 140 or something. My friend got 140 because he asked for it. But anyway, that's a lesson in life. But I got that first job, and at that time, 115K was a ton of money. For it still is. It's still great money, right? And so I got that first paycheck, and I was doing cartwheels in the hallway. I felt like, Pookie the crackhead from New Jack City. I was feeling real good about life. And the second paycheck felt really good. The third one felt really good. And then eventually it kind of levels off. You kind of normalize. And literally by the end of the year, my sense of gratitude for that money I was making had kind of disappeared. But I had an addiction to it. I needed it. If you cut my paycheck, I would feel anxiety because of that, but there wasn't like that same excitement to get that money that I had when I first started. So this kind of happens in sudden wealth syndrome. You just get a bunch of money, you're like, oh, this is great, my life is better forever. And the problem is, and it's just like love, you ever have those people that are deeply unhappy and then they find somebody and they're like, oh my God, I'm happy now because I met the right person. But then give it like 9 months or so. They're not gonna be happy anymore because if you're not happy when you walk into the new relationship, you're never gonna be happy. You have to be happy before you get there in order to be happy because that happiness has to come internally. And Will Smith talks about that. I like Will Smith. He's a smart guy. I respect him. And the same thing is true when it comes to finances. It all affects the same region of your brain. So when you get the money, you can't ever get trapped into thinking that, oh, it's something external that's going to make you content and complete. It's definitely got to be internal. So you think, oh, if I'll be happy if I can get a nicer house, or I'll be happy if I can make more money. I can be happy if I can get a car. Sure, money matters. Money does not, but money does not buy happiness. However, losing the money you have can cause financial anxiety, which can affect your happiness. And then also money when it's intelligently applied can affect your happiness, right? So if money helps me remove an obstacle to my happiness, like if I need to meditate every day in order to be at peace and to be happy, and having a little more money allows me space to meditate or exercise or do whatever I got to do to find my balance and my peace, then yes, money can open the door for happiness possibilities, but it has to be a thought out process. It can't be something as silly as like, oh, if I get me a Corvette, I'm going to be happy. You won't be. Deion Sanders, when he was a football player, he had all the money in the world, he had all the women, he had all the fame, all the power, all the respect, and he was ready to kill himself. That was, and to me, that is similar to probably what a drug addict feels when they get to the point where no matter how much of this drug they take now, it doesn't give them that high anymore. So then they go into that depression. So that intelligent use of money is extremely important. Sudden wealth syndrome is something to look out for. The second piece is there's something called loss aversion, and loss aversion kind of says that generally speaking people fear losing money more than they desire making more money. That's a natural thing. This creates what in finance we talk about is what they call a concave utility function. All that means is that when you get to the point where you're taking risk, it's natural to think about the downside as much as you think about the upside. Sometimes we think about the downside more than the upside, and that's okay. That's actually fine. But what happens is that as you get wealthier and as you get a lot of money in your pocket, you're not thinking as much about the downside. You're thinking about just the upside. So effectively, his investing behavior was what might be seen as very overconfident. It's like, okay, I've got like NBA players go through this all the time. You got this $100 million contract, so who cares if you invest $300,000 here or throw away $200,000 there? You're very confident because you feel like the money will never run out. I used to go through this every 2 weeks when I got my paycheck from Taco Bell. Tell me if you've ever gone through this. I used to get that check and I would go cash it because I was a teenager and that's what teenagers kind of do, I guess. And I would get this big pile of money. I get a bunch of 20s, and it felt like so much money. And in my mind, I would think I'm never going to run out of money. I've got an endless supply of money. Like if I've got a big stack of 20s in my pocket, big wad of money, nothing less than a 20. If you need a 5-0, Boyce Watkins got plenty, right? So anyway, so you got this big stack of money, nothing less than a 20 in your pocket, and you go to the store and it costs $5. It's like, oh, okay. This thing costs $3. Okay. Oh, well, let's go to McDonald's. This is going to cost $7. Okay, okay, right. And then next thing, and it was crazy. It was almost like a magic trick. Every single time I would run out of money. Like I get my check Friday, cash it Friday, have a hell of a weekend, get through about half the week, and by about Wednesday or Thursday, the money starts running light, and you're reaching in your pocket expecting a big wad of 20s, and there's like two, or maybe there's like 120, a 10, a five, and three ones, and a bunch of quarters. And you're like, what the hell happened? Like, where did the money? And every single time that would happen, I was like, what is going on? How is it that when I get paid, I feel like I have all this money, but then a week later, I'm broke again? And it was weird. And what that really comes down to is that money makes you high. Money is like dope. And what dope does is dope has you feeling like you're Superman or Superwoman. Dope, it gives you what in finance research is referred to as investor or spender overconfidence. You are overconfident in how much money you have, and that overconfidence leads you to make faulty decisions. So this man, Jack Whitaker, had extreme overconfidence. I mean, you got 113 million in the bank. Of course, you're never going to run out of money, but no, you can still run out of money with 113 million dollars. So financial consciousness must always be present. In fact, it's interesting, ironically, Bill Cosby was very good at being financially conscious, even when he was very wealthy. He didn't waste money on silly things. He kept up with his money. Unfortunately, his lack of consciousness came with excessive involvement with many, many, many women and possibly doing something that was illegal. Again, we can't take that off the table. Again, I just believe in proof. Like I think you got to prove things, but still, I mean, those allegations were pretty bad. And Cosby probably, I'm gonna guess he's probably over time gonna give away at least 400 or 500 million, maybe $500 million away due to the inability to control that one area of his life, right? And I think that's where his flaw. I mean, I guess a lot of people have flaws. I also know, and this is interesting. This kind of fits with that theme that I think for men that sexual thing and the fact that we live in a society that doesn't encourage sexual discipline for men, especially if you have money. Like people really kind of feel like, and I've seen this up close because I was single for many years before I married my wife, where people sometimes feel that because you have money, you should just do whatever you want with whoever you want. And I never felt I believe in things like karma. I kind of think if you live a sloppy life, that's going to eventually catch up with you. And so it's kind of a theme, right? Tiger Woods, for example, because of his inability to control that one section of his life, it costs him probably, I'm gonna guess, half a billion. Because I know his wife alone, she got, I think, a quarter of a billion. But then there's the women he had to pay off in the lawsuits and all that. Um, but then on top of that, it cost him much more than money because one of his greatest dreams was to break Jack Nicklaus's record for the number of majors. When I think Nicklaus had won 18 majors or something, Tiger was up to 15. He was on his way to breaking that record. I was a big fan of Tiger Woods. I loved his excellence. I loved what his dad did with him. But there was that one area they did not cover, which was sexual discipline. Look, son, I know you love the ladies, and the ladies gonna love you, but you gotta put a cap on it. You have to have some degree of moderation. If you don't have, if you are too extreme, this can destroy you. And you saw that what happened with Tiger in 2009 when the little thing happened with the women and it came out. I mean, this man was all over the place. I mean, porn stars and just crazy stuff. And I'm gonna tell you, I think the problem was him as a 21-year-old hanging out with Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley. That was bad right there, right? You should have hung out with somebody like me. I'm nerdy. I would have got you. I would have had you playing video games or something. I mean, but to be out with Jordan, that's gonna. Jordan is a great guy. He's a great athlete for the most part, and I know people that know him. So I'm going to be nice and careful because one of my friends used to be the chairman of the Jordan brand, Larry Miller. He's a great guy, and I don't want to disrespect Jordan, but I kind of feel like Jordan because he was so powerful and he was a leader that he got a lot of young guys in trouble. He mentored them in the wrong way. He had them in bad situations. Even Antoine Walker, who lost all of his wealth, he talks about gambling with Jordan for 24 straight hours and literally spending like money he could not afford. Michael Jordan, yeah, he's going to make money for the rest of his life because he's Michael Jordan. You're not him. And so you're trying to gamble with him, and that's going to cause a lot of problems. And just as a side note, gambling addictions are going to be massive and problematic and destroy billions in black wealth. I want you to pay attention to how when these companies, the DraftKings and stuff like that, when they're marketing, they're using black men in these ads a lot. A lot. A lot of these ads will use black men, black comedians. Jamie Foxx over here. You got Kevin Hart over there. They coming to get your money, man. They're coming to get your and I want to give I really appreciate the guys that Earn Your Leisure for they called out, I think, Joe Budden, one of the podcasters. They said, stop promoting gambling to black people. I was very impressed by the fact that they said that because that's going to lead to a conflict, a massive conflict. Look, I'm not a person that will ever scold anybody for what they do with their money. I'm not. I've bet on games before. I think I bet on the Super Bowl and I didn't win. And then every now and then it's fun. But I'm not really in that target demographic. The target demographic they're really trying to destroy is men between the ages of, say, 20 and like 35. Because there's something about that testosterone, that overconfidence that will make them just trick away all their money and then looking crazy when you are 100,000 in the hole and you're only making 40,000 a year. And then that leads to a whole bunch of other cascading problems. People have taken their lives because of how much their gambling losses were, the hopelessness that can occur when you're looking at this massive debt and your income is like this. Then at that point, the only way you have a chance to solve this problem is like you're in a basketball game where you're 40 points behind and there's 10 minutes to go. You're not going to be able to close that deficit without taking a whole lot of chances. Now, if you're playing football, you got to throw the ball down. You got to throw in Hail Marys constantly. If you're playing basketball, you got to shoot nothing but three-pointers. And if it doesn't work, it's going to just increase the deficit. So what happens with the gamblers, this is the trick. They get deep in the hole, and then they calculate mathematically the only way I can get out of this hole is to take even more risk, and then it doesn't work. And then next thing you know, you went from 100,000 in the hole to a quarter million in the hole. And then you got this wife and kid at home who are gonna now suffer. Who your wife has no idea that y'all about to lose the house. your kids don't know that daddy is about to get killed by a bookie, and this just creates all these problems and all this anxiety. And I guarantee you that if you would do research, how many people have taken their lives because a gambling addiction got out of control? You'll find endless stories where this has happened. Because then you're like, the only way I can help the families if I just die and get them the insurance money or something like that. And that's a terrible place to be. And I just beg anybody that's listening to warn your sons, protect yourself, because this has happened before. We've allowed this kind of we've allowed sports betting before, and it was tragic when they did it the first time. They've had games, the World Series, I think 1919, the World Series got fixed. Pete Rose got a lifetime ban. There are so many. Art Schlichter was one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of Ohio State. That's my alma mater. Well, I think Art Schlichter, I think that was his name. He got this addiction in college that ruined him. He got banned from the NFL. He all the money that he made, he tricked it all away in 2 or 3 weeks. His whole signing bonus was gone in less than a month. So my point is to say that just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean you should do it. Just because they make it legal does not make it good for you. This country has a lot of things that they legalize and encourage, and they encourage and legalize those things because capitalism works best when your customer is an addict. Capitalism works best when you can get people addicted to your product. They study how to get you addicted. Social media, they study how to get you addicted. They use the same methods that the casinos use for gambling addicts. When it comes to sports betting, they want you addicted. When it comes to the liquor, they want you addicted because addicts are excellent customers because they're going to pull out their last nickel to feed the beast that has been born inside of them, and that is damn near demonic. That would be almost like a type of demonic capitalism that just allows society to run rampant with all these addictions that are very harmful to people. We talked about the sports betting, but also just the alcohol. Look at how many people. One of my best friends just lost one of her best friends last week because some drunk driver was driving down the road and rammed into her, and suddenly everybody's life is all messed up. My daughter almost got killed by a drunk driver, but yet we just think alcohol is fun because this is so much fun. Party over here. No, it's not a party. It's sometimes it's death, man, and it's insanity to me because when you're not a leader, when you're just a follower, you just think it must be okay because everybody's doing it. And I hope that you understand that that can't be the case. You have to have your own barometer of what intelligent behavior looks like. You have to have your own compass for that. Society will not give you a good compass. They will guide you right off a cliff and destroy you. And then when you die, they'll just start taking money from your kids. Okay, so that's what they do. All right. So anyway, before I finish this up, I want to remind everybody what's going on in the Black Business School this week. First off, if you want to hear from us every morning when we do our Millionaire Training Camp, make sure you're on the text list. Pull out your phone and write this down. Somebody type this in the chat because sometimes some of us are not as quick as others to write numbers down. Text the word morning to the phone number 87948. Text morning to 87948, or you can just go to drboyceelevate.com if you want to sign up for the class if you're not already enrolled. So drboyceelevate.com. Also, don't forget that we have ladies from Fly Nubian Money that go live every day. Constance Carter ran the largest Black real estate firm in California. We have Dr. Lene Javette, who's an expert on entrepreneurship and Black people. My wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins, who is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work, who's done great work on things like financial anxiety and things like that. They actually do this show every day at 1 o'clock, one Monday through Friday. And if you want to be notified when they go live, you can text the word Queens to the phone number 87948. And I hope you'll support them. I think we should really listen to our women because our women are smart and they're capable and they're amazing and they're the most educated on the planet and they're just doing big things. And I really think that as men, just a great tribute that will enhance your masculinity, in my opinion, is to really honor and respect all the great women that are really holding it down and doing great things in our society. So starting with my wife, I honor all the women that are doing this, but then also there are so many women that are not going to get the attention they deserve because they ain't twerking. They ain't taking their clothes off. They're not setting up an OnlyFans. They're actually accomplishing things that are really beneficial to society. So the ladies of Fly Nubian Queens do that. Fly Nubian Queen do that. So if you text the word Queens to the number 87948, they'll send you a text notification when they go live every single Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock, and they talk about really interesting topics that relate to our community and our wealth. And there's others in there. Athena Gardner, who is an expert on artificial intelligence, and there's Lala. Lala is Laura Key. Laura Key, who actually, ironically, we were talking about drunk driving. Lala came into this class, and Lala actually, she's an international real estate expert that lives in Argentina, and two of her sisters were killed by a drunk driver, and it's just, I just this stuff bothers me. It does. So anyway, if you want to support the ladies, I hope you'll text the word Queens to the number 87948. Come in, not just listen to them and learn from them because they're smart, they're going to benefit you, but also, give them some love. Like, join the conversation. Like, we want our community to have conversations that we need to have that are going to make us better. There are a lot of conversations that don't make anybody better. There are a lot of conversations that are interesting but not healthy. And I think healthy, intelligent conversations will help our people become great again. Right? Just to steal the term, not just from Trump. Trump ain't the first person to say "Make America Great Again." Actually, Bill Clinton used to say that, and I think even George Bush said that. So that term "Make America Great Again" is an old term. Lots of politicians have used it. Well, I want to make Black people great again because I know that we're great and we're extraordinary, and I believe when it comes to economics, starting there, we're going to take the lead on Earth. Like, we're going to be the best on the planet because we're getting our kids ready at 4, 5, 6 years old, and that to me is the win. That's the holy grail. All right. So anyway, one more theory. So let's finish up this conversation about Jack Whitaker, and then I'll let you guys go for the day and until tomorrow. So one other financial theory that might fit with this situation with Whitaker, who won the $113 million lottery, lost all the money, and then eventually died. I think he died in 2016. His granddaughter died at 17 years old, I think a few years before that. So it was really sad that he won this money. He actually said, "I wish I had never won it." And one other financial theory that does apply for his experience is what they call basically social pressure and lifestyle expectations. So basically, behavioral economics, and I'm looking at it right now just to refresh my memory. It shows that wealth can attract a lot of undue social pressure, leading to what they call lifestyle inflation. So tell me if you've ever gone through this. First of all, let me ask you this: how many of you are considered to be one of the more financially successful people in your family? Like, how many of you are maybe one of the first ones to break a generational curse, first one to go to college, first one to go to Harvard, first one to make 100,000, first one to, own real estate? I mean, I know if you're not doing well, you're eventually going to be doing well because the things I'm talking to you guys about when it comes to economics, this is cutting edge stuff. So you're going to be great at mastering your economics, right? So a lot of you have that expectation that because you're doing well, that you're going to pay for everything, right? You go to dinner with your friends and they look at you when the bill comes because they know that you're going to cover the bill, and you feel like you're supposed to do that because maybe you have survivor's guilt, or maybe you just feel like, well, because I'm doing well, I should be covering everything. I should be big balling all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great type of generosity, and I respect that immensely. But there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. And there was a great TED talk I saw from a Black lady who was she said that she had an MBA from Harvard, and she said that her finances were so bad that literally she'd have like $1.50 in her bank account, but yet she's sitting, at dinner with these other, established, distinguished Harvard alums, and she's feeling like she's supposed to show up in a certain financial condition, but yet she's sweating and hoping that she doesn't have to pay the bill because she can't pay the bill. So the bill arrives and she'd have to sneak away and go to the bathroom, things like that. And a lot of her pressure came from the fact that people would just assume, well, you're an MBA from Harvard, so of course you have all the money. Of course you're doing quite well. And that's just a lot of pressure there. And so with this guy, Whitaker, when he won 113 million, he ended up, telling everybody he had this money. So everyone expected things from him. They would bring their financial problems to him, almost like in the movie The Godfather, where everyone lined up at his son's wedding and they would just bring all their problems and say, "Hey, Godfather, I'm having trouble with this, trouble with that." And he'd say, "Okay, my son," right? And that's okay to a point, but it's something that has to really be managed and calibrated. Take it from somebody who goes through that a lot. My family knows that I'm not broke, and so what that does is that means I have to be really conscious about my social circle and how I manage expectations that other people have. And really the bigger factor is understanding the importance of serving the apples but protecting the tree. Right? Like I'm the tree. A lot of people in my family, I pay lots of people. There are lots of people who pay their bills every month because I send them a check. I don't even know, I can't even count how many. Um, but what has to happen is that establishing appropriate boundaries, and this is the kind of thing therapy really helps you with, is establishing appropriate boundaries means I have a limit to how much I can actually do for you. I have a limit to how many of your problems that I can personally absorb. So there's a point where, and it's hard. It's really hard if you're trying to be a good person and be nice and or and all that. It's tough because we say things that don't mean anything when we say them, but then they mean something when people call us on it, right? So like people will say little things like, "Hey, let me know if you need anything." For most people, that doesn't mean a whole lot because there's a limit to what they can actually really do for you anyway. But when you got money and you tell a broke person, "Hey, let me know if you need anything," well, then some people might really come and cash that check. Like, "Hey, you said call you if you need anything, and that we're best friends, and so I do need something right now. And it's the same money that I needed last month when I couldn't pay my rent because I have an endless number of financial problems that I expect you to solve because you're supposed to be my friend and you told me to call you if I need anything." And so really I noticed that as I kind of got more money, I had to even be careful about what I said. It's like, okay, how do I really let you know that I care about you or I'm your friend without making you think that there's an infinite pool of requests you can make of me because we're supposed to be friends. Because if I say no, then maybe you interpret that to mean, oh, well, you said you cared. You don't really care. You're a blah blah blah, right? Because I'm gonna just tell you, I will just say my opinion. It seems to me that's very, very hard to have money or success without somebody calling you a bastard or saying you're greedy or oh you think you better than everybody else or uppity. You have eventually I just had to learn to ignore that and have an internal compass of whether or not I was being a good person or not. Like I know what I can do for you. Like I can't do other little things like say it's like sometimes, for example, one little trick I used to use when I didn't when people didn't know as much about how much money I had is if I knew that I had a cousin that was going to ask me for money, I would start talking about my money problems before he did, right? So I would just say, "Oh man, shoot, I'm broke, man. I ain't getting nothing, man. It's hard out here." Like they're just flat out. I ain't gonna lie, just flat out, like just going with it. Like okay, yeah, man, it's true. And then most if it worked, it would be like, yeah, yeah, I'm struggling. My car's broke down, blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, man, my car too. I just had to pay, but right. But then when people know you're lying, like they know you got it, that's really hard. Like it's easy to say, "Well, I'm sorry, I don't have it. I can't do anything." But it's different when you say, "I could do something, but I just don't want to. I'm not going to." Right? That's a delicate kind of dance, and it does create paranoia. It does. It makes you very like, gosh, if I become your friend, are you going to start asking me for a whole bunch of stuff and stressing me out because I don't know how to deal with that. And then you could just say no. And there are people that are good at that, but that's hard to do too, right? So there's a balance, right? So anyway, ultimately, those expectations, what I would say to you is the best way I've seen to kind of deal with that is number one, goofy things like trying to flex and brag and show off how much you have. I think that that's immature. It shows that there's some sort of inadequacy within you. That's a self-esteem issue. I don't think you have to show people how much you've got or put it on Instagram or show your new Mercedes with a big bow on it and put a hashtag blessed, where you're doing these like, humble brags. Nobody want to see that crap. It's only going to make people feel worse about their lives and they're not going to like you because of it. Um, then the other piece of that too is living below your means. I think that's the ultimate flex. I think living below your means is an amazing flex for you and for the world. I think that it shows you to be a person of substance and character who doesn't define themselves by how much money you have. It also keeps you financially safe, right? You just, I met one of our kids' friends and they came to the house And I guess for them, it was a big deal that Dr. Boyce Watkins lived at the house. The kids, the parents found out, and they were like, "Oh my God, I didn't know. This is cool." So I met the dad, and we were sitting on the porch talking, and he's a cool guy, and he said, and we were talking to, there's somebody else there. I don't remember who was there, and he said, "Yeah." He said, "I was really surprised that you lived in my neighborhood." And I was like, "Well, why? Why is that?" He said, "I don't know. I kind of thought you lived on a house on a hill somewhere, like on a mountain or something." I knew you lived somewhere, but I didn't think it would be here. And I was like, in my mind, what I'm thinking is, I love this house. This is a nice house. We got 6,000 square feet. This is pretty cool. This is balling to me. I don't want to live flashy and gaudy, but I want to be comfortable. I want to be happy, right? And I'm very happy with what I have. Like, why would I, and I kind of felt good about that. I was like, okay, good. Let's not get caught up in the material stuff because I don't think there's any value there. But the material is important in terms of giving you security and giving you peace. I think peace and contentment go so much further than showing off to other people. And so living below your means, not being flashy or gaudy, and not definitely not bragging about how much money you have. That brings a lot of pressure. That one time that I did have that conversation with Tyler Perry a long time ago when he called me, and I asked him. I said the day before he was on the cover of a magazine because he made $100 million that year, and everyone was surprised by that. I said, "How does that feel to be on the cover of a magazine for how much money you made?" And he said, "I hate it." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, because people see how much money you make. They see the top line. They see the 100 million. He said, they don't understand how much it cost me to run this business. He said, they don't know that I just paid Alan Payne $2.5 million, or that I just had to pay another 800,000 for this and another $1 million for that. They just see the 100 million, and they literally think you have $100 million in your bank account. So, so as you kind of climb the ladder and become successful, I encourage you, use your money in a way that's going to allow you to have positive influence on the world. Use it in a way that's going to give you the peace you deserve. Protect the tree, because by protecting yourself, you're protecting other people. So I know that even though I have a lot of people that depend on me, the reason I have to pull back and draw a boundary and say, okay, this is for Boyce. This is Boyce's time. Boyce is going to sit over here and work and not be disturbed. Boyce is going to reserve resources for himself. It's not me serving myself. It's not selfish. It's me serving everyone. Because if I stress out and die, or I go broke trying to save everybody like MC Hammer, then a lot of people would suffer. So in conclusion, because wealth in economics is an ecosystem, I give to you, you give to me. Everything's recursive. What I put out, I'm getting that back. That means that I can't take care of you if I'm not taking care of me. And I can't take care of me if I'm not taking care of you. So understanding that about economics and how that works, I think will go a very long way in building your family wealth. We're all connected. We're all connected. So keep that in mind. I hope that that was beneficial and helpful. I didn't mean to overtalk that, but that's a point that I really believe in. So anyway, we're going to meet again tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. So I look forward to seeing you. We're going to do a session with Prime. Those of you that are members of the Prime class, where we make income with stock options, there is a recording of the last Q&A that I did. If you log in at drboyceprime.com, you can take a look at that, and it talks about what's going on with this market and the opportunities that are there. So feel free to go to drboyceprime.com if you're interested in joining us. And also, we're going to do Stock Market Tuesdays on Tuesday, of course. So you can go to drboycestockmarket.com and do a free trial if you'd like to join our stock market investing club. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening. It was great talking to you, and you'll hear from